There is a place where history goes to vanish, where winds erase names and time leaves no witnesses. A place older than memory and deeper than myth. Not the Egypt you know. Not pyramids or papyrus. But something buried. Something quiet. Out here, the sand doesn't just bury. It guards. And what it guards was never meant to be found. They spoke of a white city that no one could reach, of rivers flowing beneath the desert, of temples without gods and tombs without names. Satellite eyes have scanned these dunes. They saw nothing. But explorers say they've heard whispers in the wind. Voices beneath the stone. And now, the sand is shifting. What lies beneath may not just rewrite Egypt's past. It may change everything we thought we knew about civilization itself. Welcome to the Egypt the Nile couldn't hold. Welcome to the secrets of the Sahara. And if something in the wind stirs a question inside you, stay with us. Like this video if the desert ever gave you chills. Subscribe and follow us deeper. Because this is only the beginning. And the Sahara is just starting to speak. Part 1. The Whispering Dunes of Forgotten Egypt. The wind doesn't howl here. It whispers. Across a canvas of golden silence, The Sahara speaks in sighs brushing against stone, caressing the lips of dunes that have shifted for millennia. And somewhere out in that silence, beneath a layer of ancient breath, lies a story few have ever heard. Because while the world remembers Egypt by its river, its temples, its pyramids, there is another Egypt. An Egypt that has no Nile. Only sand. He stands where maps blur. To his west, Libya. To his east, the Nile. But here, nothing. No roads, no villages, no name, only desert. But he kneels. And from beneath the shallow crust of dune, he brushes away centuries. The object in his hand is not just old. It predates kingdoms. It is the corner of a stone too straight to be nature, too perfect to be random. The sand has kept it, hidden it, protected it. And now it begins to reveal. The other Egypt. The Nile was Egypt's lifeline. That is true. But what kept it safe? What surrounded it with silence, guarded it from armies, and preserved its memory better than any scroll? The answer lies west of the river, where dunes roll like ocean waves frozen in time. The Sahara Desert vast, hot, unyielding forms nearly two-thirds of modern Egypt. Yet its stories are seldom told. The textbooks show temples and tombs in Luxor, statues in Giza. But the Western Desert? It's a blank page. And yet, beneath that page, the ink still lingers. A memory in the wind. Once, this desert was not a desert. $10,000 years ago, before pyramids, before pharaohs, before even the idea of king's reign fell here, the Sahara bloomed, rivers carved through rock. Grasslands teemed with elephants, giraffes, crocodiles. People lived here, thrived here, and left behind whisper petroglyphs carved into cliff faces, Buried tools. Stone dwellings now swallowed by the dunes. Archaeologists have found rock art of swimming figures, people swimming in what is now unbroken desert. The cave is called Wadi Sura, or Cave of the Swimmers. But what happened? The rain stopped, the rivers dried, the grass died. And those people moved east to the Nile. And so, Egypt began. The desert remembers. We often think the desert forgets. But the truth is, it remembers more than we do. In 2007, satellite imagery revealed signs of ancient settlements buried under the dunes of western Egypt. Traces of circular walls, straight lines that once marked roads. A buried city? A forgotten temple? Or just an illusion? No one knows. Because the desert plays tricks. A man called Almazy. In the 1930s, a Hungarian explorer named László Almasi ventured deep into the Libyan-Egyptian desert. You might know him. He became the inspiration for the English Patient. But this wasn't romance, it was obsession. Almasi believed in a place called Zerzura White City, hidden beyond the dunes. Arab manuscripts spoke of it. Traders whispered its name. It was said to be rich in treasure, ruled by silent sentinels, and guarded by black-skinned giants. Almazy searched for years. He never found Zerzura. But what he did find were caves filled with paintings. People dancing, herds of cattle, images so vivid they felt like memories burned into stone. And they were thousands of years old. Older than the pyramids, older than writing, sand that sees. Why does this matter? Because it reframes the story of Egypt. What if the desert didn't come after Egypt? What if it made Egypt? As rainfall disappeared and the Sahara dried, its people migrated eastward, carrying memories of animals, rituals, stars, and the early seeds of civilization. The Nile gave them water, but the desert gave them silence. And in that silence, memory hardened. Ideas became structures. Structures became monuments. Tombs without names. In Egypt's western desert lie cemeteries without cities. At Dakhla Oasis, hundreds of tombs have been found, many untouched, unlooted, preserved by dry air. But there are no pyramids, no grand walls, no names. Just bones. And silence. Some of these graves date back over 5,000 years, placing them right at the dawn of pharaonic Egypt. Others are Roman, Christian, Islamic. It's as if this desert, too, was once a capital. But not one we wrote down. The voices beneath. Sometimes, after a sandstorm, shepherds find statues half-buried, eyes blind with grit. Sometimes explorers see glints of obsidian knives, arrowheads from cultures we don't understand. In Gilf Kabir, the Great Barrier Plateau in southwest Egypt, caves reveal not just drawings but maps, etchings of stars, roads that lead nowhere. Inscriptions in a language we haven't cracked. Who wrote them? What did they know? What else is out there waiting? Listen. At night, the wind changes. It doesn't roar. It sings. To stand in the western desert is to feel small, smaller than the sky, smaller than the silence. And yet, something stirs beneath the sand. Not just artifacts, ideas. Possibilities. What if our view of Egypt has been too narrow? What if the greatest Egyptian story was buried, not built? So here begins our journey. Not along the riverbanks, but across the dunes. To temples swallowed by time, to cities lost to maps, to tombs no one meant to find. The Sahara doesn't forget. It only waits. And the wind? The wind is just the beginning. Part 2. The Lost Cities and Hidden Temples. The sand, when it moves, doesn't make a sound. Not at first, not when it's gentle. Not when it glides over stone the way time glides over memory softly, steadily, erasing without asking. And yet, sometimes, when the wind shifts just right, something ancient breaks through the hush. A shape, a line, a sound that shouldn't be there. Not in this place, not anymore. Because beneath these dunes, beneath this seemingly lifeless sea of heat and silence, there are places no one was meant to find. Cities swallowed whole, temples that breathe dust. Columns too precise to be nature's. Walls once carved with prayers and names, now worn smooth by centuries of forgetting. They say Egypt was born from the Nile. But what if part of it was left behind in the sand? The city that doesn't exist. For generations, Bedouin travelers spoke of it in low voices, never quite sure if they were passing on fact or legend. They called it Zerzura, the White City. A place that shimmered in the minds of men more than it ever did on any map. They said it was hidden somewhere west of the Nile, beyond the mountains of darkness. A city of fountains, of gardens, of treasure and silence. Guarded by men with the skin of night, holding swords that glinted even in shadow. European explorers, obsessed with this myth, searched across the Western desert in the 19th and 20th centuries. None found it, but many returned changed, haunted by what they almost saw. One man, Laszlo Almasia, Hungarian adventurer, pilot, and spy, believed it with every fiber of his sunburned skin. He spent years flying over the Sahara, chasing echoes in the dunes. He never found Zerzura. But he did find something far stranger. The Cave of Swimmers. In 1933, Almasi and his team discovered a cluster of hidden caves in the Gilf Kebir Plateau, near the Libyan border, so remote, so silent, it was dubbed the Nowhere of Nowhere. Inside those caves were paintings. Not crude marks or symbols. But full-bodied depictions of people, arms outstretched, legs bent at the knees, swimming. Swimming in a place where there hadn't been a drop of water in thousands of years. Archaeologists dated the art to over 8,000 years ago, a time when the Sahara was lush and green, crisscrossed by rivers and lakes. What was once myth was now memory. The desert, it seemed, had once held liferage, moving, liquid life, and then sealed it beneath sand and sun. Almazi believed these paintings were part of the Zerzura story, that the city had existed not in marble and gold, but in fertile valleys, now turned to dust. And perhaps, even now, remnants of that lost world still slept beneath the surface. Temples without roads. But Zerzura is not the only secret. Scattered across Egypt's western desert, particularly around the Dakhla and Karga oasis, stand ruins that defy simple explanation. Temples built during the time of the pharaohs, and even later under Roman rule, lie isolated, half-buried in silence. No grand entrance, no processional way, no signs that anyone was meant to find them. Among them is Deir el-Hagar, a sandstone temple standing alone, surrounded by miles of sand in every direction. It's not large, not famous. But it tells a story of presence, of worship, in a place where no one lives now. Who prayed here? Why build a temple in the middle of nothing? Or was it nothing back then? Because the desert wasn't always desert. It shifted. And in its shifting, it took entire cities with it. Some of these cities have names like Ain Asil, a fortress town with mud brick walls and ancient granaries that fed the far edges of Egypt's influence. Others have no names, only outlines, found by satellite, marked by straight lines that nature never draws. Eyes in the sky, secrets below. In the last 2 decades, archaeologists have begun turning to space to see what the sand hides. Satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar have revealed dozens of anomaly shapes beneath the surface, rectangular structures, potential road networks, all completely invisible to the naked eye. In 2011, a team using radar imaging found what appeared to be a buried temple complex just south of Siwa Oasis. The lines were precise, aligned with celestial coordinates, but still untouched. Because in Egypt, bureaucracy and budget often move slower than the sand. What else waits out there? What else have we mistaken for just more desert? The pyramid that shouldn't exist. In 2018, an amateur explorer using Google Earth claimed to have found the outline of a step pyramid deep in Egypt's western desert, far from any known necropolis. The images showed perfect geometry, 4 triangular faces, each matching the cardinal directions. Skeptics dismissed it, but desert veterans know better. The Sahara likes to hide. And it doesn't give up its secrets easily. When sand becomes stone, Everything in the desert moves. Except the past. That stays anchored. Even when covered. Even when denied. And as the wind carves and sculpts and buries again, there is a strange truth. Every sandstorm reveals and conceals. So explorers return. Again and again. Not just for what they might find, but for what they might feel. A shiver. A shadow. A sound with no source. Because to walk through these ruins is to walk through time. Not history, but memory. And memory is not always kind. Whispers from below. Some say the sand shifts at night. Not by wind, but by intention. That certain stones rise when no one's watching. That temples long buried become visible only to vanish again. These are stories, yes. But in Egypt, stories are often warnings wrapped in poetry. And what if the greatest temples were not built by the Nile at all? What if they lie west, unmarked, because no one ever returned to mark them? The desert doesn't forget. It simply waits. And when it's ready, it shows you something you weren't looking for. A column. A carving. A city that doesn't exist until you step inside it. Part 3. Sand as a shield, the desert that preserved Egypt. Most deserts destroy. The sun bleaches. The wind erases. The sand consumes. But the Sahara? Sometimes it does the opposite. It preserves. Not out of kindness. But out of indifference. And it is that indifference that has kept Egypt's oldest truths intact, tucked beneath layers of silence, where moisture cannot rot, where life cannot intrude, where time simply pauses. Dry enough to remember. In the lush valleys of the Nile, monuments crumble under the weight of rain, floods, and growth. But in the desert, papyrus can last for millennia. Human skin mummified, not by ritual, but by air, can remain untouched. Wood, fabric, baskets, beads, things that should have turned to dust dressed perfectly, still beneath sand. In Tarkhan, just west of the Nile, archaeologists found what may be the oldest woven linen garment in the world. Over 5,000 years old. Still folded. Still bearing stitches. Because the desert kept it. not out of reverence. Just because it didn't care. When the wind is a vault, most tombs were carved in stone. Some were buried intentionally. But others were lost entirely by accident. Out in the western desert, there are burial fields with no names. No pyramids. No temples. Just scattered bones. Sometimes with jewelry, sometimes with sealed pottery jars still full, and often with skin still stretched across their faces. These are natural mummies. Not embalmed by priests, but desiccated by the air itself. In Gebeline, 2 such bodies were discovered in shallow graves. One of them, the so-called Ginger Man, still had red hair, curled by time, visible after 5,000 years. The desert is dry. So dry, death doesn't decompose. It simply stops. Secrets in the sand. The silence of the Sahara hasn't only kept bodies. It has kept stories. In 1896, a British archaeologist named Flinders Petrie discovered a papyrus scroll in the desert near the Fayum oasis. Inside it, medical procedures, spells, and anatomy diagrams. One of the earliest known surgical texts. If it had been stored anywhere else, Nile mud, a city archive, even a royal tombat would have dissolved. But in the desert, it endured. There are thousands of such fragments still buried. Some under dunes, some under ruins, some beneath things we haven't even found yet. Because the sand does not forget. It simply waits for you to ask the right question. A fortress of silence. The Sahara wasn't just an accident of geography. It was Egypt's most powerful defense. To the west, it was impassable. To the south, it slowed invasion. To the east, it forced travel through narrow paths. And in the middle, Egypt thrived. Like a pearl in a shell of sand. Armies could not cross it easily. Intruders could not sneak through it unseen. And for thousands of years, this isolation allowed Egypt to build, to experimento, remember. Without the Sahara, Egypt may have been swallowed by conquest centuries before the pyramids were ever drawn. The Oasis Archives. The desert wasn't empty. Not always. It had hubs, sanctuaries, oases like Dakhla and Karga acted as cultural outpost trading stations, spiritual centers, and knowledge stores. In the Temple of Hybis, Roman soldiers once painted the walls with both Egyptian gods and imperial messages. A fusion of empire and eternity. Some of these places even had libraries, scroll depots, and stone record-keeping systems preserved better than any palace by sheer dryness. The desert, unknowingly, became the archive of a civilization. The desert didn't erase Egypt, it protected it. Think of it. The Nile built Egypt. But the Sahara kept it from vanishing. While floods devoured granaries, sand protected scrolls. While rain washed away frescoes, dust buried them for another age. Even the famous tomb of Tutankhamun might have remained intact because the entrance was buried by centuries of blown sediment. It is ironic. The desert that seems most lifeless gave the most life to memory. A modern problem. But today, this vault is under threat. Modern expansion, unregulated digging, climate shifts. Sandstorms that once buried are now uncovering ruins too quickly before archaeologists can stabilize or protect them. Looters with GPS devices now walk where Bedouins once followed stars. The same silence that preserved is now exposing. And Egypt's oldest secrets are at risk not from time, but from haste. The silence that keeps speaking. So what else lies beneath? What papyrus waits under a dune? What temple sits just a few meters below, its columns dreaming in the dark? We don't know. But the desert does. It always has. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest discoveries in Egyptian history aren't behind us. They're sleeping. Somewhere out there. In the sand. Waiting for someone who knows how to listen. The Sahara doesn't speak in sentences. It speaks in pauses. In the stillness between wind gusts, in the hush after the sun dips below the dunes, and if you've listened closely, really listened, you'll know by now. This place doesn't just bury. It protects. It holds. It remembers. Beneath this shield of sand, Egypt left behind something far more fragile than gold: memory. Memory in the form of bones, scrolls, shadows, and silence. But not all of its secrets are quiet. Because there were those who moved through the desert not to hide, but to connect. They walked with camels and salt. With incense and language. with stories and spells. And they carved roads not in stone, but in stars. They linked temples to tombs. Pharaohs to foreign kings. And Egypt to something greater than itself. That's where we go next. Into the trade routes. Into the myths. Into the magic. Because some things weren't meant to be kept in pyramids. They were meant to be carried on the wind. In part 2, we follow the echoes.